Here's an expanded version of the story with more depth, emotions, and details while keeping the essence intact. A Ride to Kindness. Chapter 1. The struggle of a taxi driver, Ethan Parker had always been a hard-working man. Driving a taxi wasn't his dream, but it was his reality. Every day, he navigated the busy streets of New York, picking up strangers, listening to their stories, and trying to make enough money to cover his ever-growing list of expenses. Despite his efforts, life was a constant struggle. The bills never stopped piling up. His rent was overdue, the electricity bill was threatening disconnection, and the worn-out tires on his taxi were in desperate need of replacement. Man, it's like my bank account is on a diet, Ethan would often joke. Every time money comes in, it disappears instantly. He had no family to rely on, no safety net. His parents had passed away when he was young, and he had been fending for himself ever since. That night, as he sat in his car, sipping on a lukewarm cup of coffee, he sighed. It was late. The cold wind howled outside, and he hadn't picked up a fare in over an hour. He considered calling it a night when he noticed a woman standing on the curb. She was holding a small child in her arms, her coat wrapped tightly around both of them. Her face was pale, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She looked utterly exhausted. Ethan hesitated for a second before pulling up beside her. He rolled down the window. "Need a ride?" he asked, his voice soft. The woman nodded silently and stepped into the taxi, clutching her child protectively. Ethan could feel the tension in the air, the weight of whatever burden she was carrying. As he started the engine, he stole a glance at her through the rearview mirror. She was staring out of the window, lost in thought, her face filled with sadness. Something was definitely wrong. Chapter 2. A Small Act of Kindness. The ride was silent. Ethan didn't ask any questions, and she didn't offer any explanations. The only sound was the occasional sniffle from the woman and the soft breathing of the child in her arms. When they finally reached their destination, she reached for her purse, fumbling to pull out some money. Before she could, Ethan raised his hand. "Keep it," he said with a gentle smile. "Looks like you're having a rough day already." Her eyes widened in surprise. I can't accept that," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan shook his head. "It's on me. Just take care of yourself and your little one." Tears welled up in her eyes. She hesitated for a moment before nodding, swallowing hard. "Thank you," she whispered as she stepped out of the car. Ethan watched her walk away, disappearing into the dimly lit apartment building. A strange feeling settled in his chest, a mix of sadness, warmth, and something else he couldn't quite explain. He had no idea that this one small act of kindness would change his life forever.